Hurley's flashback is just as superfluous as the last few, but with the bonus of taking up more than 5 minutes of screen time as we see him rush to make the flight. The only thing approaching a point that any of this has is numerous appearances of the numbers, which are just as meaningless as always, but none more so than this. I mean, just look at it. You're actually telling me that God or fate or whatever caused those girls to line up like that for the benefit of no one but us, the fans? That's a whole new level of stupid right there. Locke suffers the indignity of being carried onto the plane after the airline loses their loading wheelchair. I guess that was just his destiny too, huh? Finally, everyone boards the plane, which eats up a few more minutes as it's done completely in slow motion. The only notable thing about it is that we see that Hurley brought on that comic book with the polar bear. It really is pathetic how much meaning they try to cram into nothing sometimes. We get our first look at Hillary, and boy, it's hard to remember that during the whole first season we knew him as just the monster and not the smoke monster. Locke acts like an idiot and walks right up to it, and then runs from it. And then when it catches him and is dragging him into a hole, he asks Jack to let him go. I know you guys aren't the best at character consistency, but is it too much to ask that people stay the same within one scene? Jack and Kate rescue him with a stick of dynamite, which forces Jack to reveal that he'd put half of them in his pack instead of Kate's. And how exactly did that happen, I wonder? Did Kate and Locke just leave it up to him to load the packs and wander off somewhere until it was done? Michael and Jin have a bonding moment over that watch from way back. That's nice. Charlie remains true to form and runs right into a trap Danielle set despite seeing others she'd set up with his own eyes back in Numbers. Saeed cauterizes his head with gunpowder. Awesome. Hurley starts whispering the numbers for absolutely no reason, just so Kate can remind us of her own meeting with one of them. Still means nothing, guys, and that's not going to improve.
We shouldn't be this close to each other, Jack.
If we blow up, we blow up.
Yeah, screw everyone else who's counting on you to save them. Our hero. Locke explains that he thinks he was being tested by being dragged down that hole and goes on about how everything that's happened has a purpose. Yeah, what are we up to, 17 unanswered questions so far? And again, I have to ask, exactly what purpose did all those people serve who died in the crash or were too badly injured to survive? And it gets even worse when he says that Boone was a sacrifice that the island demanded. Hey, you know who else had those kinds of thoughts? Charles Manson. Face it, Locke, you're talking out of your ass here. And it ends with this little exchange.
All of it happened so that we could open the hatch. No, we're opening the hatch so that we can survive. Survival is all relative, Jack.
Yeah, like so much else, that statement is completely meaningless. Seriously, just try to come up with some meaning for it. Michael and Sawyer have their own bonding moment where Michael figures that Sawyer wanted to go on the raft because he wants to die. Hell, I still think getting away from Kate is a pretty good motivation. Then they get a blip on the radar. Saeed and Charlie find that the black smoke is just a bonfire, and Danielle comes out and gives Aaron back. The others never showed up, despite her hearing them say they were coming for the boy. And of course, Charlie can't leave well enough alone, so...
There never were any others. You started the fires yourself.
Shut up, Charlie.
You're a nutjob. You heard nothing.
Shut up, Charlie.
You're pathetic.
Shut up, Charlie. Jack and Locke set up the dynamite on the hatch, and Jack insists on sticking in the fuse himself because he's that much of a dick. Locke even shows him up by saying he'll light the fuse while managing to not sound like a raging jackass. Kate confronts Jack on the whole lying about the dynamite thing. His response...
Everybody wants me to be a leader until I make a decision that they don't like.
Hey, I never wanted you to be a leader, so I guess we're even. He also wants to make sure Kate's on his side when it comes to the, quote, Locke problem. And yet I'm so thoroughly turned off by all three of them that I just can't give a damn. Hurley drops his flashlight, which gets him to notice the numbers on the hatch. This naturally freaks him the hell out, and he yells that they shouldn't do anything with the hatch. But Locke, as has been made abundantly clear by now, isn't one to let someone who's given him no reason to doubt him shouting that he shouldn't do something stop him from doing any random thing that pops into his head, whether it's knocking someone unconscious for disagreeing with him or blowing something up. So Operation Blow Something Up proceeds as planned. Sawyer and Michael waste some time arguing over whether to use their one flare, but ultimately Sawyer wins and the other boat sees it. On board is a guy played by MC Gainey, which should already tell you this is bad news. The show keeps his name secret for a while, but it eventually turns out to just be Tom. So yeah, there was no reason for that either, so Tom it is. He says they have to take Walt, revealing that he's the boy Danielle heard the others talking about. Sawyer pulls out his gun but is shot immediately. Not exactly Chekhov's gun, was it? Walt is taken and the raft is blown up, leaving these guys in quite a hopeless-looking situation that I was far more invested in than that whole summer than anything about the hatch. Aaron is brought back, and Charlie's also brought one of the heroine statues back with him. Excuse me while I try to care. Jack and Locke look down the hatch, and after half a season of build-up, all we get is a long tunnel. Kind of completes the cycle of pointlessness, doesn't it? My score for Exodus Part 2 is 7 out of 10. It's a definite drop in quality from Part 1, with every single flashback being completely superfluous and telling us nothing new about any of the characters. The island story fares better, though it's still impossible not to feel personally insulted to have Jerkass blown up as a sign of what the producers thought of anyone who voiced his very legitimate criticisms. With this in mind, Lindelof's insanely egotistical statement after the show ended that everyone who didn't like every single thing about it wasn't a real fan makes a lot more sense. I'll give my thoughts on Season 1 as a whole in my next video, so stay tuned.